All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to explore the personal, internal world of social anxiety. But we're not going to crack open a textbook. Instead, we're going to use a story to really understand what it feels like from the inside out. Okay, let's just sit with this for a second. Every day feels like stepping onto a stage I never auditioned for. Wow. I mean, that line just perfectly captures it, doesn't it? That feeling of constant, unwanted performance. It's this sense that you're always on display, always being judged by an audience you never even wanted to face. So, to really get a handle on this feeling, we've got to break down how a totally normal, everyday environment can, transform, how it can become this overwhelming, almost hostile place, all inside someone's mind. So, picture this, right? You're just walking down a busy street. For most people, it's background noise. But if you're experiencing this, every single person you pass feels like they're part of an audience, and every single one is a potential critic. And get this, it's not even about what people might be saying to you. It's more than that. It's the constant hum of all the conversations around you, the distant sounds. It all just blends together into this powerful roar. And that roar, it just makes your own internal monologue scream even louder. What's really fascinating is how even a happy sound, something like laughter, can feel totally isolating. When you already feel like you're on the outside looking in, that laughter just sounds like a joke you're not part of. It just drives home that feeling of being separate. And this quote, man, it just nails the core of the experience. It's all about that internal translation, right? Taking completely neutral, everyday things, like someone just glancing your way, and turning them into these deeply personal, negative judgments. So a simple glance? Nope, it feels like an accusation. This is so crucial to guide. This whole battle is being fought on the inside. It's this storm that's completely invisible to everyone else. And that's exactly why advice like, oh, just relax, can feel so unhelpful, right? Because people on the outside, they just can't see the sheer force of what's going on. Okay, so a storm like this, where does it even come from? It doesn't just pop into existence. A lot of the time, you can trace it all the way back to a single, maybe even a seemingly small moment that just gets bigger and bigger over time. So, how does a whisper become a storm? Well, it often kicks off with just one event. A single memory that gets played on a loop in your head, gathering more and more power with every replay, until that little whisper of doubt, it grows into a full-blown, defining fear. In the story we're looking at, there's this classic flashback moment. Think about it. Something simple, but totally mortifying, like dropping all your books in a crowded school hallway. The whole thing's over in, 10 seconds? But that feeling of all eyes on you, that can get frozen in time. It becomes this lasting echo. And this line here, it points to such a painful paradox. Your gut instinct is to just disappear, right? To become invisible. But the crazy thing is, the more you try to hide, the more intense and terrifying that feeling of being watched becomes. Your own heart just screams louder. So this all leads us to a really big turning point in the story. And look, it's not some magical cure, okay? It's not a sudden fix. It's something deeper, a really profound shift in the way you actually relate to the fear itself. In the story, this big realization happens on a rooftop at sunset. It's one of those moments of just total clarity. And the breakthrough is this. The goal isn't to silence the anxiety. That whisper, trying to shut it up, it's pretty much impossible. The real goal is to find your own voice and let it speak alongside the whisper. The mission changes from I must hide to I can exist. And this right here, this is the key. The big takeaway from that moment is all about acceptance. It's saying, okay, the feeling is here. The whisper hasn't vanished, but you choose not to let it have the final say. You refuse to let it control what you do or who you are. You choose to exist, to move, to speak anyway. Okay, so what does this new way of thinking actually look like day to day, in practice? How do you take that big rooftop revelation and bring it down to the ground, to the busy street or that crowded coffee shop? Well, it's not about one giant leap. It's not about suddenly becoming fearless. It's actually a series of small, really deliberate steps. First, you just acknowledge the feeling. You don't fight it. Then, you take a single deep breath to ground yourself. And then, you just choose to take one step. That's it. You start to own your space, reclaiming your right to just be there. And that is the new mission. The whole focus just flips, you see. It's not about trying to achieve the impossible goal of being invisible anymore. Instead, it's about building up something that's actually achievable. Being brave enough to just be seen, to be present. Which brings us to our last section, and honestly, maybe the most important message in this whole story. It's a message that really goes beyond just one person's experience. So if you're listening to this, what's the takeaway? Well, this whole story is about more than just one person's journey, right? It's really a reflection of something so many people go through, and because of that, it has a really powerful message for every single one of us, whether this is your personal struggle or not. Here it is. The ultimate point is this. Even when the world is whispering doubt in your ear, your voice matters. Your presence, your point of view, your unique voice, all of it has value. And that value doesn't just disappear when you feel anxious or doubtful. Actually, that's probably when it's most important to remember that it's there. And finally, remember that feeling we talked about at the very beginning? That feeling of being a stranger in every room you walk into? Here's the truth. In almost any room, there are other people feeling the exact same way. That feeling of being totally alone is ironically one of the most shared human experiences there is. And that's something really worth holding on to. You are not alone.